Welcome to Detailing with Mark. Today I'm reviewing this 2004 Saab 9.3 convertible. So full disclosure here, this is my 2004 Saab 9.3 convertible. It's the ARC model, which was one of the higher level models. It's got a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine, 210 horsepower, 221 foot-pounds of torque. Not a lot of power by today's standards, but it gets up and goes pretty well as long as you're on the boost. So I'll show that in a little bit. But I've owned this car for about a year, and you know, overall, I really like it. Saabs are quirky and weird and different, and if you like that, you might like a Saab. You might not. I also own BMWs and have driven everything under the sun, and I still like Saabs. They've got this quirkiness about them that I really enjoy. So check one out if you're in doubt, and hopefully this review will help you decide. So in my ownership of this car, it really has never left me stranded or let me down. I think due to the age and the obscurity of these cars and the parts, it can be expensive to get parts and the labor for these to do some repairs. Others are pretty simple. It's been really reliable though. It hasn't cost me that much to maintain. As with any car, there are certain things you'll want to sort out, and I think those are, you know, pretty easy to do. Nothing major, but yeah, they will cost you a few $100 for repair. After I bought the car, it had been thoroughly serviced by a top Swedish shop here in the area where I live. I took it in just for a full once over, walked out $1,300 and change later. I had them do every possible thing: hoses, belts, seals, anything that looked like it was gonna deteriorate or degrade or cause me a problem later. I just had them do it. So not that bad, you know, for a huge bill of work. I had like probably 12 things checked or fixed. $1,300. So, you know, I've had much worse, believe me, on other cars, especially BMWs. So I bought this car for many reasons. First off, I drove a friend's a few years ago, and he just let me drive it on a whim, and I had no expectations. I fell in love with it. I really did. So let's hit some of the pros of this car. So first off, it rides well. I think the ride is pretty comfy. It handles generally well. The steering is hydraulic, obviously, which I love, so it's very direct response. You can see here as I turn the wheel, the car is very responsive. The turn-in is pretty instant, and it's very nimble. The steering's very kind of right now, very accurate, very nimble. When you throw it into a hard turn, there is quite a bit of oversteer, but it feels, you know, somewhat secure. Not a car you want to go ripping around mountain roads in exactly. This is more of a cruiser, obviously, especially with the top down. So you can probably tell I've got the top up, and the reason is it's just way quieter and easy to film. With the top down, it's wonderful, but obviously a lot noisier. Even with the top up, you can hear kind of the cowl shake and the creaks and so forth rubbing against the top where the frame and the body comes in contact with the top. It kind of clicks and pops as you drive and go over bumps. And with the top down, you notice obviously a lot more noises and chassis flex, but honestly it's not that bad. It doesn't create a huge problem for me. Even when you're throwing it into hard turns, it still handles reasonably well, but it's a convertible. It's going to shake and shudder and shimmy, and there's going to be some flex and cowl shake and so forth. This is just the way most convertibles are. Obviously, modern convertibles are much better about this. Hardtop convertibles, you can hardly even tell. If you know Swedish cars, Saab or Volvo, you know that they have some of the most comfortable seats around. The seats are deep and thick and sporty and well bolstered. You just kind of sink into them, and it's really comfortable. It holds you in tight turns. If you have to take a road trip, these cars are incredible for highway use. Several hour road trip on the highway, you just put it in 5th gear, kick back and relax. It's very comfy, very serene, great road trip car. To that point, the 4-cylinder turbo, you know, Saab were kind of the pioneers of this a long time ago. They were doing this decades before anybody was doing it. Today, everybody's got a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo under the hood. It's a great balance of power and gas mileage, very efficient, fast when you need it. Saab was just way ahead of the curve, and I'm starting to realize more and more what pioneers Saab was. You can pull 30 plus miles per gallon all day long. I drive a lot of city side back roads like this and some highway. It's actually, for me, it's more city, more back roads than highway. I average 26 to 27 on every tank, which I think is pretty fantastic, honestly. So we'll dip into the throttle a little bit here. So watch the turbo gauge above 2,500. Woo! Here we go. I skip shift all the time. Once the turbo boosts, you don't need to sequentially go through the gears. You can skip a gear or two, no problem. So this is one of those old school turbo engines where initially there's no power at all. It feels like a very underpowered 4-cylinder engine, but once the boost comes on, it's fantastic. It really is. So in this car, as with a lot of cars back in the day, there's nothing until about 2,500 RPM. That's when the turbo gets on boost. At 3,000, it's pretty much peak boost. Then you start really cruising. Then it gets fun. Another thing I love about this car is it just smells great inside. It reminds me of the late 90s, early 2000 BMW models. There's just this buttery, this beautiful like buttery smell of the leather. I don't know if it's the leather, the wood, just the interior in general. So you can see as we go over some of these bumps, I think that's where you really feel the convertible. The whole thing kind of shakes and shudders when you hit even minor bumps. That's kind of the life of a 20-year-old convertible. They're not the smoothest riding things. Obviously modern ones, you know, I rented a BMW 4 Series hardtop convertible not long ago. Super smooth, top up or down. You can hardly even tell it's a convertible. This is not that, obviously. You feel all the bumps. They transmit through the whole chassis. It flexes a bit, but you know, that just doesn't bother me. I love the car for what it is, and it's just a wonderful car. As far as interior noise, with the top up, it's actually not bad. I can carry on a conversation with anybody in the passenger seat, no problem. I think it's pretty quiet for a soft top convertible of the period. Obviously, there's still noise that comes through. At any speed, you hear the wind rushing on the freeway or highway especially. You just hear the wind kind of whooshing by, and it's always there. It never goes away. So, you know, it's a 17-year-old ragtop, and I think that's just the way it is. But generally speaking, it's quiet enough where it doesn't bother me. Obviously, with the top down, there's plenty of noise, but that's what you want, right? You want the noise coming in. You want to feel nature and be part of it, and that's what you get. It's awesome. This car with the top down is incredible. For what you can pick these cars up for used, they depreciated just horribly bad. They're super cheap. Obviously, you got to make sure they've been properly maintained. You know, if you buy one, you may need to put 1,000 or 2,000 into it, but if you do that, you'll have a good car for a while, honestly. I mean, I paid $5,000 for this one. I put $1,300 in repairs. I'm in it for $6,300. The car's got 82,000 miles on it. I still feel really good about that price, and I think I'm going to get a lot of life out of the car. I mean, honestly, where else can you get a nice European convertible, 5-speed manual, comfy seats, powerful, great fuel economy for $5,000 or $6,000? You won't find too many cars that tick those boxes. So for what these cost, I could not be happier with this car, honestly. I love it. It's a joy to drive. I love driving this car. It just is a lot of fun. It makes me happy. It's got a few little squeaks and rattles here and there, but overall, it's a really solid car. There's very few squeaks and rattles. It's very solid. It feels very well built. The quality is pretty good, even though I know GM took Saab over pretty much at this point, and it's basically a GM car, everybody says, but I don't find it is. I've driven many generations of Saabs, and I think it's pretty true to those. Obviously, it's quite a bit different, but I don't think GM touching it was an all bad thing. I'll put it that way. 0 to 60 is, I think, 7.1. Again, It's like off or on, the acceleration. It's absolutely nothing to start with, and then when it boosts, it's fantastic. So let's take a look. Another not so great thing about the car is due to the way the turbo comes on, it's very strong around 3,000 RPM. There is torque steer, meaning once the turbo boosts, it kind of jerks the wheel to the right. So you just, you know, it's not a big deal. You just have to be aware of it and hang on. When I test drove it, I had forgotten about that, and it pulled me off to the shoulder of the road pretty quickly several times. So if you're not careful, it'll drive you right off the road, but you know, it's not that extreme. As long as you keep two firm hands on the wheel, you should be fine. Woo! Got some wheel spin there. That will definitely happen. That will definitely happen. If you can keep it in the boost and keep the revs up, it really hauls. If it's off boost, it's one of the slowest cars I've ever driven. I mean, it's almost like dangerously slow. Trying to merge with traffic or to get on the highway. One of the main reasons I love these cars and I bought this car is because of the way the turbo comes on. I love that mad rush of full boost all at once. Modern cars don't have that. Modern cars are much more progressive. You can hardly even tell the engine's turbocharged. Not so with this one. You can absolutely tell it has a turbo. It all comes on violently at once, and I love it. It just makes this incredible whooshing noise, and I think it just sounds fantastic. I absolutely love it. It makes me giggle almost every time. So to me, that's worth $6,300. No question about it. You can see I'm on kind of some windy roads here. The car is very comfortable on windy roads, provided you're not going crazy fast. If I'm on the highway doing 90 miles an hour, weaving around turns like this, the car feels a bit unsettled. I'm afraid to push it. The car does understeer. It's got a pretty short wheelbase and also understeers when you push it hard. So if you're not familiar with understeer, it basically means you turn the wheel this way, the car wants to keep going straight. So it feels like it just wants to go its own way. Also, due to the short wheelbase, under really tight turns, sometimes it'll feel like it's going to tip over, which, you know, it probably won't, but it makes me nervous enough that I don't push it too hard. But I mean, come on, this is not that kind of car. This car is not a canyon carver by any means, obviously. Put in third. There's a turbo. Ooh, nice Lambo. Woo! Oh, now that sounds great. Anyway, while I was admiring the Lamborghini, you can see how third gear pulls. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. It pulls really well. Here we go. Second gear pull. Woo! From about 20 to 70, and not that long. So when this thing's boosting, it is just lovely. Every time the car boosts and hits the high revs, I laugh. It's just joyous. I love it. Into a pretty hard turn here. It bobs and weaves a little bit. It mostly feels precise, but this is not the type of car you feel confident really pushing it like you would a Porsche or BMW. The Saab kind of gently says to you, hey, I'm not quite built for this. Back off a little bit, you know, and it's no big deal. You can still take corners pretty quickly. It's not a deal breaker by any means. We can try a little 0 to 60 run here. Feel the tires. Woo. So there you go. It doesn't get there crazy fast, but it's fast enough. You know, this is not a 0 to 60 type car. Honestly, this does better at higher revs. Already on boost, that's where it's happiest. We'll do we're in second gear here at about 3,000 RPMs. You can see just how it torques with the turbo boost. Here we go. Boom! Woo! Ah, I love it. I never, ever, ever get tired of that turbo whooshing. It's just awesome. I love it. I love it. So what's the verdict? Should you buy one? I mean, that's up to you. If you're looking for a convertible that's comfortable, reasonably quick, handles fairly well at a really affordable price, and especially something that's odd and different and quirky that you will not see every day, maybe Saab is for you. I'm not sure, but I love these cars. I think they're not for most people, but people who like Saabs really like Saabs. I'm definitely one of those people. I couldn't drive a Saab as my only vehicle, but having it as a second or third or fourth car, which this one is in fact our fourth car, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, when a sunny day hits, seeing this thing in the driveway and being able to know I can just drop the top and take it out, I'm just thrilled with it. I love these. Again, though, as with any car, especially European cars, especially Swedish cars, German cars, make sure it's been serviced well. Take it for a PPI, pre-purchase inspection. Make sure there's no surprises lurking under the hood or under the car. Get it up on a lift. You may have to put, you know, $1,000 into it, but you'll have a great solid car after you do that. So if you're willing to do all those things, I love these cars, maybe you will too. So I hope this brief tour of the Saab 9.3 convertible was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, always appreciate a like or a comment on the video. Subscribe if you want to see my next video, which probably is going to be a car review. I think I'm going to do a few more of those. I kind of like this change of pace. And once again, thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.